Well, moving on into our next topic. Sony is reportedly, according to Bloomberg, in the early stages of developing a portable console that plays PlayStation 5 games. Now, of course, at this point, there is no confirmation from Sony whatsoever. This is completely different from their PlayStation Portal, which, although it has recently had updates that enabled it to play games from the Sony games library. I can't remember the actual name of the library, but let's see if I can find that specific information here. But basically, the way that the PlayStation Portal is set up now is that you can, at least in beta at the moment, you can stream games from the PlayStation's game library, from their streaming game library, without having to have a PlayStation 5. You only need to have a Portal. So the Portal can do that now, but this supposed PlayStation 5 portable, whatever it's actually going to be called, it's apparently in development, and Bloomberg says that this is something that it's in the early stages, but it is planned, and supposedly this is contending with Nintendo in the portable game market. So, what are your thoughts?
I have thoughts. I guess mainly questions, I would say. The first one is, of course, this is, as you said, this is unconfirmed. It's not something that is, definite. And also, of course, Bloomberg says it's only in the early stages. But I want to know is how much of a PS5 are we talking about as far as the power? Because, I mean, considering the fact that at best, with what we currently have with handhelds, as far as like handheld PCs, if you're talking about like the ROG Ally, that's probably only about, what would you say, like a PS4 Pro in terms of power?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Or something like that. So you're really, it's gonna take a lot to get like a PS5 into a handheld. That's something I'm very curious about. And unless they're saying like you're able to play PS5 games, you might not be able to play it at the same fidelity, or at least at the same frame rate, but you're going to be able to play your PS5 games. Because if it's something that, based on semantics, is like you're able to play your PS5 games, but you're not playing a PS5 at PS5 quality, like I feel like those are two different things that would sort of need to be addressed. And even if you were able to actually play, say, on PS5 quality, which I find kind of hard to believe, I agree that this would be a very early stage thing. Like, I highly doubt that even with the latest mobile chips, we have anything that would actually be able to contend with a PS5 in terms of power. Not only that, but the battery life would be abysmal, to say the least. There's no matter how large of the battery you have, like the efficiency is not there where you could just like, yeah, I'm gonna play a PS5 game for 5 minutes before the battery dies. Like that's not feasible. But I'm still really curious because of the fact that, for one thing, I'm wondering if you're able to play PS5 games, is it something where you could say play the games you already own and just play it, actually, as far as like, if you have them in your library, could you just like say transfer the game, like install the game onto your PS5 portable and play on the go, or something where you actually have to buy the game separately, even if you had them on your own PS5, which personally would suck, having to buy the games all over again. But it's just something I'm very curious about on that end. And also, just one thing that I'm also curious about is, would it be digital or would it be physical? Because that's something that I doubt they would just like, if it's physical, that they would just say, hey, take your PS5 disc and just put it right into your handheld. And I mean, the size of that handheld is, that thing's going to be huge if you're going to have like an actual Blu-ray disc that you put in your handheld. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they would just make it digital, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, of course, again, this is all just speculation on an unconfirmed handheld, but I just have so many questions about how this thing would work that I'm just curious to know more about it. I feel like if it's an actual thing, and if it's going to try to do what this report says, I would say at the earliest we would probably see it at least would be 2027, maybe 2028.
Yeah.
Because and even then, still, if you're actually going to have a PS5 portable, would it be technically too late? Because we're more than halfway, I guess you could say, into the PS5's lifespan. And around that time, you know, 3, maybe 4 years later, they're going to be already at least talking about the PS6.
Yeah.
So that's again another question I would have about this device, as far as how they're going to sort of sell it. It's definitely interesting, but we'll of course have to see. And of course, the articles mentioned, you know, Nintendo being the sole rival, but Sony's gonna have to work really hard to get back into that market, because while the PSP, they did a great job with, you know, getting their own audience and their own install base, the Vita killed the momentum that the PSP had. So, and they did nothing after that. So, trying to regain market share in the handheld market where Nintendo has been dominating it is going to be very, very difficult. But hey, best of luck.
Yeah, and on top of that, if Xbox is also entering the market, which they've already said, they've confirmed that they are, you know, that's going to be the real competition, is Xbox. Because, like, the reality is Nintendo and Sony aren't even in the same ballpark. And it's not because of, you know, the lack of quality in terms of what Sony can produce. It's just more because of the fact that Nintendo's already has that huge install base. They have this system that is completely different, you know, that's both a handheld and a home console. Whereas even if they manage to get a portable device that runs PS5 games, even close to native, even PS4 Pro level, the reality is that they're going to be in a position where they cannot possibly, they just can't reach the same market, because they'll still be held back by the fact that unless this can play PS6 games, you know, they're going to be, you know, selling to two different audiences, and they're going to end up with the same problem that they had with Vita and that sort of thing. Other than, I mean, the Vita's biggest problem was the memory cards. That was really the biggest problem with it, because the Vita's a fantastic handheld, despite its flaws. You know, like, especially the rear touchpad was such a stupid gimmick. I hate the rear touchpad so much. As much as I love the Vita, the rear touchpad is garbage. But, like, I still think the Vita is a fantastic handheld. It's got a great design. In fact, I'm going to grab mine. And while I mean, I had to, you know, like, get a special grip for mine in order to make it easier to hold. So, like, this one, by default, it only has the L1 and R, or L and R buttons, and then it has the rear touchpad for other stuff. It doesn't have clickable sticks. But this grip that I got for it basically makes it so that these triggers touch the rear touchpad, so that for games that don't have as much of, like, the movable stuff on the rear touchpad, it can act as R2 and L2 buttons. Like, I've used it in Ratchet and Clank, for example. Looks great on there. But mostly, more than anything, it just makes it way more comfortable to hold for, you know, hands as gigantic as mine. It's still not perfect. Like, these little nubs only give my fingers so much to grab, but it's still, like, a big improvement. And I love this device. I love this thing. I mean, when we're talking purely handheld devices that don't dock without a bunch of extra effort anyway, it's between the 3DS and the Vita for me. Like, the 3DS just beats out the Vita, but the Vita is top tier for me. PSP is a great device. I got mine really late, and I basically just got it for literally Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. That was it. And I missed out on a lot of great games until much later because of that, but that being said, this idea of Sony doing a portable device, well, for one, I just don't think they can compete with Nintendo. And I don't think that they're in the same market as like Steam Deck and that sort of thing. Like, I think they technically could sell better than the Steam Deck and other handheld PCs because of how loyal the PlayStation fan base is, especially fanboys, but even just the fan base in general. And if it wasn't for the fact that we have so many PlayStation games on PC, I would be on board for buying that day one, without question, because I do enjoy a lot of Sony's games. But for me, like, I look at this idea of a PlayStation 5 portable, and initially I was thinking, I wouldn't mind that, because I mean, it should be backwards compatible with like my PS4 games, for example. There are some PS5 games that I haven't played yet that I wouldn't mind playing, and of course having it on a handheld would be great. But then I thought about it some more and I realized, but then I'd have to buy another copy of these games, and that's part of the reason why I abandoned PlayStation consoles, why I haven't bought a new one, is because I don't want to have to keep buying the game multiple times. I'll just buy it on PC and then I can play it forever. Well, as long as they let me play it. Eventually I probably should just get some DRM free copies of some of those games, even if I don't necessarily play them again anytime soon. But at least right now, like, I have quite a few of the PlayStation PC ports, and I played most of them. The only one I haven't played on PC anyway is Uncharted. And Uncharted 4 I already played on PS4. Lost Legacy I have not played at all. And the only reason I haven't played them is because I want to replay the first 3 Uncharted games before I jump into 4. And I kind of wish I had just waited to buy it, because of the fact that at the time I was like really into replaying the Uncharted games, and then I fell off and I never got back to it. But anyway, my point is that while I like the idea of Sony doing another PlayStation handheld, and I do think it will sell well, I also just wonder what they're going to do to destroy it. What they're going to do to completely mess up its ability to stay relevant. Because as much as it would be great if it played a lot of these games, the reality is I don't see enough of a benefit for me personally to get that versus just sticking with PC. Because realistically speaking, by the time something like that comes out, there will be a new Steam Deck or, some other type of handheld PC that I might be interested in. I'm hoping that it's at least 2 or 3 years before we get the next Steam Deck, because I would really rather not buy a new one anytime soon. I guess I could hand the current one down or whatever, but like, I already bought, the Steam Deck in 2022 and then the OLED in 2023, and I don't really want to buy another one. And like, I think it's easier for me to resist at this point. Even if something were to come out, next week or something, I would probably still be able to resist for a while, because of the fact that I'm mostly satisfied with my Steam Deck, apart from some of the newer games that run really poorly. But I know I'm kind of all over the place. Obviously, handhelds are a big thing to me. I love handheld gaming probably more than any other form of gaming. With the Steam Deck, it's just made such a huge difference in being able to focus on my PC games. And it's what has taken me from being like half and half on console and PC to being like 90% PC. And yes, the Steam Deck is it's still technically a PC, and I'm still playing my PC library, so I count it as still being PC gaming. Even though I probably do like, I would say it's probably like 60% Steam Deck, 40% PC, and then 10% other handheld consoles. Because I have some other actual consoles, but I don't really play those anymore. I haven't in quite a while. It's really I just play like the Switch is the only other quote unquote console I have, and then that I play every so often, and then otherwise it's just my other handhelds, my Vita and my 3DS. So, but yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure if I really covered the topic super well, but. To try and TLDL it all, I like the idea of a new Sony handheld. I am skeptical about whether or not it can actually be relevant. I don't think it's going to be able to compete with Nintendo very well because Nintendo's in their own market. And I think that its biggest competition will be Xbox. Xbox is handheld. And especially if Xbox does this rumored thing of opening up their platform to be able to have PC storefronts, then you'd be able to play anything it can run. And it would be a drastic difference in what you get there versus what you get with the PlayStation handheld. The closed ecosystem, which will undoubtedly be well designed and will probably be great, but you got the closed ecosystem with games that are not even exclusive, and then you have potentially an a more open ecosystem if Xbox allows different stores from PC.
Yep.
All right. Any other thoughts on that?
No, sir.